We are on our last lesson of how happiness thinks, which is very, very exciting. This class is L'Ilui Nishmas in the memory of Lazer Ben Yudel, who my mind is blinking out, sorry, this morning. Bring your name. Judy, yeah, I don't know how that happened. So Judy's dad, your yard sale is today? Secular yard sale today. Do you know the Hebrew date? Oh wow. Oh wow, that's a special day. The fifth of Hanukkah is a very special day. So this class will be for the L'Ilui Nishmas of memory of Lazer Ben Yudel. The Neshama should have an aliyah. And I'm very excited for the class, but I'm just going to jump straight into it without giving you any preparatory, and that will be with a video. So go sit back and enjoy.
During much of the 20th,
Just realize that I'm not sharing the sound with our Zoom. Justine, you can hear? Justine, could you hear the video?
During much of the 20th century, many psychologists did not regard Judaism, or any religion, as a positive contributor to a happy life. Sigmund Freud, the father of modern psychology, described religion as a neurosis that people go through in their passage from childhood to maturity. The extent to which many psychologists discounted the role of religion in people's lives is apparent in a study done in the 1980s by Peter Cohen. Cohen interviewed a group of ordained clergy who completed psychoanalytic training in the New York area. He asked the clergy how they dealt with their religion in the context of their training, which included psychoanalytic therapy sessions several times a week for numerous years. Rabbi Dr. Zvi Hirsch Weinrab, a trained psychologist, describes the results.
His basic finding was fascinating. They did not discuss their religion. They realized that in a psychoanalytic treatment framework, religion was not something to talk about, so they didn't talk about it. Now, it boggles the mind that a person who is so committed to his or her religion that they become clergy in their religion, to go through hundreds of hours of training in the most personal way and just simply not address their religious practices, their religious beliefs.
In subsequent years, however, when researchers conducted actual studies on religion and happiness, many of the studies found that religion was beneficial for mental health and happiness. In the book Happiness: Unlocking the Mysteries of Psychological Wealth, published in 2008, psychologists Ed Diener and Robert Biswas Diener write, "In the vast majority of studies, religious people report higher well-being than their non-believing counterparts. Even when researchers define religiosity in various ways, such as attending a place of worship or having self-professed spiritual beliefs, studies show that religious people are, on average, mildly happier." Today, in the 21st century, the idea that studying Jewish ideas can lead us to more happiness does not sound at all bizarre, even in an academic scientific sense. How would you explain the correlation between happiness and religion?
Okay, great question. What is the correlation between happiness and religion? And what areas of life does Judaism enhance our happiness? So, in our course alone, there were a number of things that we discovered that Judaism feeds towards our happiness. In lesson number 1, we spoke about gratitude. Being grateful enhances our happiness. Sorry, Justine, I'm back right here. And in lesson number 2, we spoke about having a healthy self-esteem. You matter, right? That too enhances our happiness. In lesson number 3, we spoke about being mission-oriented versus being self-oriented. People that are self-oriented, self-absorbed, are not happy people. People that are mission-oriented are happy people. It's not about self, it's about the mission. That brings the happiness. In lesson number 4, we had trust in God equals less worry, equals happiness. That is going to be the recap, basically, of the first 4 lessons. And then finally, in the last lesson, we spoke about how despite our flaws, our spiritual flaws, we could be happy recognizing that God created us this way because this is how we're meant to be, because this is how we fulfill our mission and purpose in this world, right? So that was a quick recap of the first 5 lessons and 5 areas of our life where Judaism, religion actively play a role in our happiness. And then finally, they bring up over here social connections. So that also would be a technical add-on benefit that religion brings. Okay, now, so what are we going to add to that? And I'm sure there's other areas that Judaism adds to our happiness. In today's class, we are going to particularly delve into a new level of happiness, a new type of happiness, a different frequency to happiness, for which we will have to tune our dials a little bit, like any radio. You got to tune into that station. So what do I mean by that? So in life, there's different types of pleasures. There's simple pleasures, and there's abstract pleasures. So you got cotton candy, and you got music. Which one's easier to enjoy? Which one do we enjoy earlier in life? The cotton candy, right? Which one's more enjoyable ultimately? Which one is more enjoyable ultimately? The music. So in life, there's many pleasures. I like sweet wine because I can't stand dry wine, because I never matured into appreciating it. But if I did, my appreciation for dry wine would be so much greater than my appreciation for sweet wine. Correct?
Not necessarily.
No?
No, because everybody has individual tastes.
I understand, but it's a more of a refined pleasure, similar to the music and the content. It was an example, so it doesn't. It's fine. If it doesn't work for you, it's fine. But what I'm trying to bring out is that when it comes to pleasure, there's more abstract pleasure and there's simple pleasure. And simple pleasure is easy to relate to. You know, even within music, in a way, children's music is very enjoyable because it doesn't take a lot to appreciate. You just appreciate it. It's very simple. When you have something more classical, you only appreciate it if you gain a taste for it. But if you gain that taste for it, then you could lose yourself in it, unlike the children's music. And this is across the board, whether it comes to a relationship with someone is obviously a more spiritual pleasure than that of food. And then there would be the ultimate pleasure in our world would be that of the mind. So an intellectual pleasure would be the greatest pleasure we could possibly attain. So to sum up what I was just saying, simple pleasures are easily appreciated. Abstract pleasures require development. Now the same thing is when it comes to joy. There are simple things that bring us joy. Physicality. If we are happy with our physical stance, we're joy. Someone wins the lottery, they're happy. It doesn't take much to be happy from winning the lottery. If we develop gratitude for what we have, so we feel like we won the lottery every day, that also will bring joy, and that's also easy to attain. What do I mean by that? It's not necessarily easy to attain the gratitude, but to appreciate the joy that gives me is easy to appreciate because it's a very simple joy. It's joy from having what I have. I'm happy that I have this laptop. That's a very simple joy. A 2-year-old understands. So that would be simple. A little more abstract would be relationships, right? So finding joy in the fact that I have this relationship. That's a little bit more abstract. That's something that I need to develop. I need to mature to appreciate the joy that that gives me. So in that sense, today we will be discussing a joy of Judaism. Judaism is joy. A joy that Judaism feeds us. And this joy will be more abstract. And in that sense, it might be harder to appreciate. But the reason why we'll be studying about it is because if we allow ourselves to tune in, not necessarily today, but over time, we allow ourselves to tune in to the joy that we are being taught about over here, the appreciation of the joy is going to be on a far greater scale. Is that clear? Okay, so let's talk about joy in Judaism. It is crucial to serve God with joy. The Rambam says this, is the verse, Ivu Hashem b'simcha, serve God with joy. Serving God with joy is crucial, but why? So of course we spoke about technical reasons why. You know, if you don't have joy, then you're going to fail. You're not going to manage. But is there a deeper reason? And there is a deeper reason. It seems that joy is part and parcel with service of God. It's one and the same. If I don't have this joy, I'm not serving God. And that we have to understand. Why is it? The Rambam tells us that the verse that talks about the curses, right? So it says, since you did not serve God with joy, so God will bring you all these curses, God forbid. So our sages say it's not just that you're not serving God, it's you're not serving God with joy, meaning you're serving God. But because the joy lacks, the service lacks. Why is it so crucial? That's what our conversation is going to be about today. Why is joy so interlinked, so interconnected to Judaism? And again, I'm going to ask you to grab a bagel and cream cheese because otherwise I'm going to have to eat all of them and I'm not going to be happy. And of course, the bagel will make you happy. Okay, there will be joy. So take 2 halves of the bagel, please. Can you pass down the bagels?
Too much sugar.
No pressure. Take one and take one home. Take the other half home. Okay, so yeah, there's a knife sitting right. There's a knife sitting right here. Okay, so we're going to start with talking about the meaning of a mitzvah. In order to understand how we could have joy from Judaism and why is service of God, i.e. doing mitzvahs, crucial to be done with joy, that we do the mitzvah with joy. In order to understand why that is, we have to understand the meaning of a mitzvah. What is the meaning of a mitzvah? What is a mitzvah all about? So the story goes that the rabbi was giving a lecture and he was talking about the importance of mitzvahs. And he's talking with this congregation that if you don't do the mitzvahs, then you're going to face the consequences in heaven. I'm not telling you this, but this is what this rabbi was saying. And he looks at the congregation and he says, each member of the synagogue is going to face God's eternal judgment. And there's one guy sitting in the front pew that gives a little smirk. So he gets agitated. The rabbi gets agitated and he says, every member of this synagogue is one day going to face God's eternal judgment. And as he says, the rest of the congregants seem to be, pretty serious. But this guy is just, his grin is getting larger and larger. And so finally he gives a clap on the bimah and he says, every member of this synagogue, each and every member, is going to face God's eternal judgment. And this guy just breaks up in this huge smile. He can't handle it. So finally, after the speech, he makes a beeline for this guy, and he says, "Good morning." He says, "What was with the smiling? What did you find funny about that?" He said, "Rabbi, I'm not a member of your synagogue."
I'm sorry.
No problem. Right in time. Right after the joke.
What, after the joke?
Right after the joke, he showed up.
Oh, is it a good one?
It was a good one. The guy,
Oh,
we'll say it in short. So one of the congregants couldn't stop laughing when the rabbi is screaming at the people that every member of this synagogue is one day going to face God's eternal judgment.
Yeah.
So after their speech, the rabbi goes running over to him and said, what was so funny about that? Why do you think that's funny? If every member of the synagogue is going to face God's eternal judgment? He said, Rabbi, I'm not a member of your synagogue.
That's cute. That's cute.
Okay. So we're talking about the importance of a mitzvah. And of course, the importance of a mitzvah is not the fear that we're going to face God's eternal judgment. So the story goes that there was the atheist living in Barditchev, and he loves to talk to people about why there's no God. And sure enough, he meets the Barditchev Rebbe, and he's telling him, Rebbe Yitzchak Barditchev, which is my name as well, and he's telling him that there's no God. He's proving it to him. And Rebbe Yitzchak told him, the God that you don't believe in, I don't believe in. Your image of God, you have it on the board. Your image of God, I don't believe in that either. When it comes to God, many of us just don't think about it much. And the ones that do often think of God in a scary light or a non-positive light necessarily. So we want to a little bit talk about what is our relationship with God. There's a great story about the Blintzes. So there's this one guy comes home, Velvel the water carrier, comes home and he tells his wife he's so jealous of the rich people. Why jealous? Because he hears they have these Blintzes, and he hears that they're delicious, and he just can't contain it. He wants a Blintz. He wishes he could have a Blintz. This chair is much more comfortable. Do you want to move over to this chair? You won't regret it. Yes, you can leave your coat there. So now you could see Linda and you can sit next to Anita. So he's telling his wife how he wishes he could have these Blintzes. They're so delicious, he can't believe it. He really wants a Blintz. And he's telling his wife, I wish if you could make me a Blintz. So she asks around, she gets the recipe of a Blintz, and she comes to her husband and she says, we got a problem. Because I got flour, I got water, but I don't got sugar, I don't got cottage cheese. How am I going to make you a Blintz? He's like, don't worry about it. Just make the Blintz without the cottage cheese and without the sugar. So sure enough, she makes the Blintz. He sits down with his apron and his whole thing, and he's all excited. He takes his fork and his knife, and he digs in. He takes one bite, and he spits it out. And he says, it's miserable to be a wealthy person.
That's cute. Cute.
That's how some of us think about God. We think about God like, who would want a God? Like, well, who needs God? But that's when we have a distorted understanding, when our makeup, our recipe of God's image is not what God is really all about. So how should we think about God? How should we think about God? So the Rambam tells us, Maimonides, that by contemplating the greatness of God, looking around the world and seeing God's accomplishments,
Right.
we come to recognize God's great wisdom. And when we do, we will develop an attraction, a love, an emotional connection to God, and ultimately a desire to cleave to Him, to be connected to Him. I want a relationship with Him. Picture you meet someone that is just an incredible person. They accomplish so much, they're so wise, they're so talented, and you marvel at their greatness. You want to be connected to them, you want to be close to them. And if we were to spend the time to look around the world and to recognize the greatness of God on very simple terms, and therefore His wisdom, He created everything that we have, He created all of wisdom. If you want to make it really practical, think of someone that you're enthralled by and think that God was created, He was created by God. God is infinitely greater than him or her. If I want to have a connection with them, I definitely want to have a connection with God. By developing those thoughts in our mind, we will create an attraction, an inner attraction, a personal attraction towards God. And therefore we would praise God and we will look to be connected to Him. Okay. That's attraction to God. Now, a second point. Not only, He's God great, and therefore we want to be connected to him. But also, our relationship with God is that of a child-parent relationship. Meaning, just like you, every one of us, are intrinsically connected to our parents. We have an intrinsic love for our parents. And when we're close to our parents, it feels good. And when we're not, we want to be close to them. Physically close, emotionally close. Not because of anything, just because they're our parents. Just because that's who we are. We harbor inside an innate connection, an innate feeling, an innate desire to be close to them. The same is true with us and God. We are God's children. We, at our core, want to be close to God, whether we know it or not. And therefore, recognizing that, thinking about that, will bring out those feelings of wanting to be close. And ultimately, when we are close, that will feel good. So how do we get close to God? That's our question.
You have to be open. But.
Okay, that's a great answer, but I want to go a little deeper than that. Because the problem is, we don't have anything in common. Any relationship that you have with any human being, think about it. Any relationship is because there's something in common. Well, and in that commonality, is that the right? No, it's not the right word. Right? In that commonality, you connect. So if it's an emotional relationship, you're common in your emotions, you both love each other, you're connecting emotionally. If it's intellectually, you're connecting intellectually. What is our connection to God? How could we possibly have a connection to God if there's nothing in common? Think about the ant that's walking around your house, and you're unaware of it. You could be talking to someone, and you look around to make sure no one else is listening, and you notice an ant. Do you stop to be like, oops, let's go to another room? Because there's no relationship here. There's nothing in common. I don't even care if the ant hears what I have to say. There are nothing in my book. So how could we possibly be something to God when there's nothing in common, when God is infinitely greater than us in every area? If us to the ant, there's no relationship, how much more so us to God? This is the question. And it's a burning question. So the answer is as follows. The answer is with a story. So Bob was the cleaner in the university. And one day as he's walking to the university, he notices Albert Einstein walking with a group of his students. And he's enthralled. He stands in his place and he just looks. If only I could have a relationship with this man. The greatest man in his world. But he's a nothing to Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein values ideas, intellect. But Bob doesn't have ideas. He doesn't know intellect. There's no relationship. And as Albert Einstein is walking and the students go off, he notices Bob and he turns to me and he says, "Excuse me, do you have the time?" Bob became a something in the world of Albert Einstein. Now there's a relationship. I'll tell you a funny idea. What if Bob turned to Albert Einstein and said, "I'm not giving you the time. You want the time? I'm not giving it to you." Are they now disconnected?
No, they still have a connection, even if it's negative.
It's a negative connection. And a negative connection is far greater than no connection. When God turns to us and says, "Please light the Shabbos candles. Please keep kosher. Please keep Shabbos. Please, do this, do that." What is he doing? He's initiating a relationship. The greatness of a mitzvah is not even that we do it. Moreover, it's that God asked us to do it. Because even if we say no, it's a negative relationship, but it's a relationship. Without the mitzvah, there's no relationship. And when we say yes, there's a positive relationship. We became something in God's eyes because God initiated that relationship. That is the power of a mitzvah. God transcends time and space, so we're limited by it, but the mitzvah connects us to God. Now, this is actually found in the word mitzvah. Does anyone know what the word mitzvah means?
A deed.
So people would say a deed, or some people say a good deed.
Yes, a good deed, something that you feel fulfilled in doing, something that gets back to you as well as to that other person. It usually involves more than yourself. Or it could be an act if you're involving Hashem, because he's that person. But it always involves some other element.
So often people think that mitzvah means a good deed, and there is a good deed, right? That's definitely a thing, a good deed. But in reality, the concept of mitzvah as a good deed is actually a misconception. Mitzvah has two translations. The word mitzvah means tzav, which means commandment, a decree. God commanded us to do something. There's 613 mitzvahs. There's 613 commandments. Mitzvah has another translation. And the other translation, Judy knows the translations, yes? Commandment, you said commandment, sorry about that.
Coming to a point like a bar mitzvah, reaching us.
Bar mitzvah means a child of commandment, which means that they are obligated now in the commandments. They could be held responsible for the commandments. So they are now commanded. Until now, they weren't commanded. Right? So there's another translation to the word mitzvah, which comes from the word tzavsa. Tzavsa means connection.
What page are we?
We aren't on a page, but lesson 6. But we're not going to be doing much aside today. Mitzvah means commandment. Mitzvah means connection. The 613 mitzvahs are 613 connection points, avenues of a relationship with God. The Mishnah says the reward of the mitzvah is, does anyone know the end of that sentence? The reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. What is that supposed to mean? The reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. Well, you could say the mitzvah is so valuable that you did the mitzvah, that itself is the reward. But there's a deeper translation of that. If mitzvah means connection, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. God says, please connect to me by lighting Shabbos candles. What's the reward of lighting Shabbos candles? The connection with God. The reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah, it's the connection. Mitzvah means connection. What's the reward of helping someone that you love? Can anyone answer that question? What's the reward of helping someone that you love? That connection with that person. Is there anything greater than that? When you help someone that you love, do you want to be paid for it? Do you want anything in return? You got in return. You got the relationship. That's exactly right. So people say mitzvahs are a burden. Mitzvahs weigh me down. 613 mitzvahs? You're kidding me? That's way too much. 613 mitzvahs are 613 opportunities for connection. 613 mitzvahs give me the ability that if one is hard, I can choose another one to connect to God with. 613 mitzvahs give me the opportunity to connect to God every day of my life, in every moment of my life.
Would you say that it was elevating yourself from the human and the everyday to the spiritual on a higher level?
So definitely, but we're saying even more, I think. We're saying even a further point over here, which is mitzvahs are an opportunity to connect to God. As I said about Bob and Albert Einstein.
Right.
Bob can't connect to Albert Einstein until Albert Einstein asks him for something.
Right.
God asking us for something is saying, I want to connect to you. So there's a command, but more importantly, there's the connection. There's the I have to, But then there's the I get to. So there's a famous story, by now it's pretty famous, of my father and my younger brother, Meir. And I'm sure you heard it, but I'm going to say it again. About the Brighty. So Meir is the youngest in my family out of 11. And he's Meir, but we call him the Mayor. And when he was a little, he used to wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, and he'd be hungry. So he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's screaming. So my father goes over to take him out of the crib, and he wants Brighty. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, he wants Brighty. What's Brighty? Brighty is Yiddish for bread.
Yeah.
And we put it in the toast, we put some margarine on it, you put it in front of him, and he's good. 4 o'clock in the morning. But the kid wants Brighty, and he's the mayor. What are you gonna do? So my father takes him out. He takes a piece from the freezer, covers it with margarine, he sticks it in the toaster. 2 minutes later, he puts it in front of the kid. He cuts it up into slices. He's sitting at his place, maybe with a book. He's reading, he's learning, studying, and Meir is sitting and eating his Brighty, and he's taking his time. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, but he got time. And Dad is sitting there. Dad's reading his book. He's learning, he's studying. He turns to Meir, maybe you want to talk a little bit. Meir's not interested, he's interested in his Brighty. Sure enough, he finishes the Brighty. He wants more. Abrach. He wants some more. So my dad goes back to the freezer, he takes another piece, he puts another piece in front of margarine, puts it in the toast. 2 minutes later, he takes that, he cuts it up into pieces, he's sitting in front of Meir. Meir is in the Brighty, my father's sitting next to him. Nothing exists between Meir and the Brighty. My father is sitting right next to him, my father doesn't exist. 4 o'clock in the morning, my father looks at him and says, it's his mezhinik, so they call it in Yiddish, right? The youngest is called the mezhinik.
I don't know the languages.
So he sees this, he's looking at his mezhinik, eating his Brighty, and he wants a relationship with him. So he turns to him, he says, Meir, does it taste good? So Meir gives a snort. He's not ready, he's not looking to talk right now. He's busy with his Brighty. So my father says, Meir, could Tati have some Brighty? So Meir gives this look. Like that was a bad thing to say. You're gonna touch my Brighty. And he pulls up this tiny piece, the smallest crumb, and he shoves it in my father's direction. And my father's laughing to himself. He's not up to eating Brighty at 4 o'clock in the morning. He wasn't looking for the Brighty. But he wanted a relationship.
Right.
If you're going to give me what you have, that's a relationship. My child, I have a loaf of bread in there. I gave this to you. I could give you more. I could give you 20 pieces. I could buy more from the store. I put it in the toaster. I put it on the margarine. I cut it up for you. You think I want the Brighty? I want the connection. Understand the value. So God says, light Shabbos candles. Keep kosher. Keep Shabbos. And we say, God, stop bothering me. Leave me alone. Let me do my thing. Please. Here, I'll give you a little bit. Be happy. Be happy. 613 mitzvahs. Are you kidding me? God gave us everything we have. And if we would open our eyes, if we would tune in, going back to what I started with, if we would tune in to the value of the joy of connection with God, there would be nothing greater than doing a mitzvah. And when I say tune in, what I mean is it's abstract, like I began with. Dry wine is not easy to appreciate. Classical music is not easy to appreciate. It's very easy to be happy with ice cream. It's not as easy to appreciate the joy in a connection and a relationship with God. But if we allow ourselves to adjust, to mature into it, to think about the greatness of God and the fact that we want to connect to Him, realizing that this is our opportunity. If not for the mitzvah, we would never be able to fulfill that desire. And when we do that mitzvah, we are connecting and we're tuning in We're accessing that breaking. Or more importantly, we're accessing that relationship. It's not about the breaking. It's about the relationship. What greater joy? And with that, I'm going to play for you a short, very cute video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Once upon a forest, there was a petite, rare bird, unlike any other. The creatures of the forest froze in awe at its enchanting songs. Its colored feathers rivaled rainbows and supplemented the sunset. But it was afraid of predators. And so the bird cocked its head heavenwards and appealed to its creator. "Look at your toes," God replied. "I hereby add saber-like talons." The bird glanced downwards and gasped in horror. "Oh no, I am too tender to wield such weapons. Please remove them." "Granted," said God. "I'll make you a formidable beak instead." The bird peered into a nearby raindrop and recoiled at its reflection. "My elegance is ruined." "Please, God, do you have any other options?" "Infinite," came the reply. "Try this for size." The astonished bird watched its petite wings grow long and wide into 2 powerful wings, shimmering with beauty and a lovely design. But the bird cried bitterly, "Oh God, I requested a means of evading predators. Instead, you've given me massive limbs that will weigh me down like anchors." "Little bird," came heaven's tender reply, "they won't weigh you down. Try them out and you'll see. They'll raise you to the heavens. You'll soar higher than you ever imagined." The bird tried out its new limbs. It swiftly rose above the forest, and its delighted song of gratitude was a wonder to hear. The young Jewish nation was petite and rare among the original forest of humanity, for God had selected it before its birth for a unique role on earth. It sung God's praises, surprising a pagan world. Its colors of conduct and accountability never existed before. But faith, prayer, and ethical conduct were insufficient. So God brought it to Sinai to reinvent its wings. Until then, it had but a handful of practical obligations. It now received the mitzvot, an entire series of commandments that stretched long and wide, not for protection like the little bird's limbs, but for connection with an infinite God. Many a Jew glances at the full body of mitzvot and gasps, "Why have you weighed me down? These are anchors, cumbersome burdens that restrict my movements." But they are not. They raise a Jew above the jungle of corporal life. They allow her to soar into the heavens, to reach higher than she could have ever dreamed. She must only realize their function and purpose and actually try them out. Once she does, she will soar with joy on the wings of gratitude.
Yeah. So an interesting idea, which is not as connected to this class, but I think it's nice to bring up now, which is everyone knows that the Jewish people's survival is unexplainable. The fact that all nations have come and gone, and the Jewish people are still around, we're the oldest nation to be around. Yet, we've never been strong and mighty and powerful. What is the secret to our survival is always the question. What ingredient is what keeps us going? And if you were to do a process of elimination, we would realize that the secret ingredient is Torah and mitzvahs. Why do I say that? Well, firstly, I say that because if you're going to attribute it to anything else, whether it's language, whether it's statehood, whether it's community, whether it's wealth, whether it's power, wisdom. You will find that throughout our generations, we've always encountered times that we didn't have those things. For most of our history, we didn't have statehood. We didn't have a language. We didn't have wealth. We didn't have power. We didn't have influence. So in general, with science, even if something doesn't make sense, but if it works, then logically, that would be the answer. Right? So if you're looking for the cure for an illness, you don't have to explain logically why the cure works. If the cure works, statistically, then logic says that this works, that this is the cure.
So continue doing what you're doing.
Exactly. With the Jewish people, do we have a logical explanation for why Torah and mitzvahs keep us going? No. What we do have is a history, statistics, that nothing else kept any other nation going. And to add, throughout history, any group of Jews that went off to other things out of Torah and mitzvahs, they didn't last. Whether it was the Karaites, whether it was the Hellenists, whether, you name them, there's thousands of them. None of them exist today. Because what keeps us going? The wings that keep us in the air is the connection to God. And the connection to God is Torah and mitzvahs. When we do mitzvahs and when we learn Torah, we're connected to God. And that is the wings that allows us to fly and survive on a new level, a different level. The Rebbe compared this, interestingly enough, to a body. How every limb has its function. And the moment a limb stops functioning as it should, ultimately the limb will die and will have to be amputated. Because the life of the limb is to fulfill its function. Now, many a nation could ponder, what is exactly my function? How do I stand distinct from another nation? But the Jewish nation has the answer to that question. We don't have the question, how do we stand distinct from another nation? God gave us a set of rules. God gave us 613 commandments. And that's clearly our uniqueness. And so long that we held on to our mission and purpose, to our uniqueness, our limb in the greater body of humanity has continued to stand strong and flourish. And when, God forbid, some of us in history have lost that uniqueness, we dissipated, we were gone shortly afterwards. In the jungle of humanity, lost our identity as a nation. Recognizing that this is the opportunity that I have in every mitzvah. An opportunity to connect to God, an opportunity to soar in the heaven, to being supernatural. This is the greatest joy. And if we could appreciate this joy, and again, I say appreciate because it takes appreciation, it's fine-tuning. It's a fine joy to appreciate. That if we could come to appreciate it, it's the greatest joy we could possibly have. The joy in a mitzvah. And now I want to add one point, which is that not only is the mitzvah the connection to God, and honestly, there's nothing greater than that. But going back to last week's class, when we do a mitzvah, we're also fulfilling the purpose of God's creation. God created the world that we should draw down godliness into creation. And how do we do that? We do that by doing a mitzvah. When I keep kosher, despite the fact that I want to eat something else, and I decide that today I'm not going to eat it, I'm going to eat kosher, what am I proclaiming? I'm proclaiming the unity, the truth of God. I'm proclaiming that I have a relationship with God. That's drawing godliness into the world. When I don't do something on Shabbos that God doesn't want me to do, despite the fact that I want to do it. When you walk to shul, what are you proclaiming? You're proclaiming God's unity. You're proclaiming God's truth. Ultimately, you're fulfilling the mission, the purpose of why you're here, and the purpose of creation to bring godliness into the world. Recognizing the power of the mitzvah, more valuable than anything else. And I don't know if I told you, my great-grandmother has a book that came out recently about her. I think I mentioned it. Yeah, in one of the class, I think our first class, I mentioned it. About her life, my mother's grandmother, my mother's father's mother. She got married 3 times. Her husband was killed by the Nazis and by the Russians on the front when she was newly married with 2 little children. Very difficult life. And she describes in the book that when she was living with terrible poverty and her oldest son was born, it was a mitzvah that when your oldest child is born, then you redeem them from the Kohen. It's called Pidyon Haben. And you need a certain amount of money, and she didn't have the money. But she had her marriage ring. And she describes how there was nothing more precious to her than her wedding ring. But she, without a doubt, went and redeemed that ring for the money that she could redeem her son. Because she said, there's nothing more valuable to me than my wedding ring. But it doesn't come to the value of a mitzvah. It doesn't come to the ability to connect to God. Okay. Now, how do we tune in to this truth? How do we allow ourselves when we do a mitzvah? You know, whatever mitzvah that you might do on a regular basis. How do you allow yourself to stop and recognize the greatness of what you're going to do right now and bask in that joy of the moment that I get to do this thing? And the answer is the blessing. Why do we make blessings when we do a mitzvah? You know, when you light Shabbos candles, you make a blessing before you light the Shabbos candles.
It's a connection from Mashiach.
There you go, right? So when Shabbos comes and we make Kiddush. Kiddush is the blessing on the Shabbos. Every mitzvah has a blessing that we do. And what do we say in the blessing? We say words that will allow us to meditate and ponder the greatness of the action that we're about to fulfill. So I want to take you through the words of the blessing for the moment. So every blessing is made up of 2 parts. There's always the standard. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al, and then we do whatever it is. So we say, blessed are you, God, Master of the universe, for sanctifying me and connecting me by commanding me to do blank. Whether it's shaking the lulav and the etrog, or sitting in a sukkah, or blessing or blowing the shofar, or blessing the new moon, or lighting the Shabbos candle, whatever it might be. What are the words that we're saying? Baruch, bless, also means to draw down. Havracha, to draw down. Markiv, to when you draw something that's planted into another space to regrow something new, that's called harkava. But that's the word baruch, to draw down. We're drawing down God. We're drawing down Atah Hashem, you God. King of the Elokeinu, my God. You're making a person. By doing the mitzvah, God is becoming my God. Melech Olam, thereby becoming the master of the universe. I'm proclaiming his connection to this universe. By doing this mitzvah, I'm bringing him into this universe. Asher Kiddishanu, he sanctified me. Kiddishanu also is the word Kiddushin. Does anyone know what that word Kiddushin means? Betrothal. A marriage is Kiddushin. A man is Mekadesh. He sanctifies his wife. He betroths his wife. God, when I do a mitzvah, you're betrothing me. Thank you, God, my God, Master of the universe, for betrothing me. Through what? He didn't give me a ring, a physical ring. What did he give me to betroth me? You commanded me to do this mitzvah. What a joy. if we were to slow down before we do a mitzvah and make the blessing on that mitzvah and recognize what that blessing is saying to me, the joy that I would have in mitzvahs would be boundless. Okay.
It's very complex, the way to view it.
Right?
Yeah.
So finally, the question is, how do I live with this every day of my life? Well, we have mitzvahs every day of our life. But how do I live with this in every moment? How do I live with this joy, with this unique joy, with this, I would say, sensitive joy? How could I live with this sensitivity if I am in tune with it? How could I have this bring joy to me in every moment of my life, even when I'm not actively doing a mitzvah? And this brings us to a new idea. So we spoke about the greatness of God. We spoke about why we would want to connect to Him. And we spoke about how we could connect to Him through doing mitzvahs, thereby understanding the value of a mitzvah. But what if I'm not doing a mitzvah right now? How could I live with this joy? And the answer is that one of the problems that we face sometimes is we have a distinction between spirituality and physicality. We don't mix church and state. So there's the shul time, and there's the rabbi, and there's my spirituality, and there's inspiration, and there's the JLI class, and then there's regular life. There's my food, my family, my home, my TV show, whatever, my sports game, whatever it might be. They stand apart with a divide. So the story goes of the Hasidic guy that traveled to his wealthy brother, who wasn't a Hasidic guy. And he traveled him because he was marrying off his daughter. He needed some money. He's a poor guy. His brother is wealthy. Maybe he'll help him out. And he comes to the house, and the guy is so proud to show him a beautiful mansion. And he's taking him from room to room. He says, this is the kitchen. This is the dining. This is the living. This is my bedroom. This is the kid's bedroom. This is the bedroom I sleep in if I don't want to sleep in it. This is my office. This is my gym. This is my movie theater. He's taking him from room to room, showing him the whole thing. This is my praying room. And the brother is just like speechless. But by the end, he looks at him and he says, so what do you have to say about all this? He says, how do you divide your life into so many rooms?
Well, that's interesting.
And what was the message? His message was, your dining room is not a place for God. Your living room is not a place for God. Your kitchen is not a place for God. A Jewish person stands united. They stand as one. They stand whole. Why do we stand whole? Because every aspect of our life really is about one thing, serving God. And if I recognize that my entire life, every moment of my life, is a moment, an opportunity to serve God, whether it's actively doing a mitzvah or the general mindset that I'm eating because I have to serve God. I need energy to serve God. I have a relationship with people because that's what God wants of me. I eat and sleep and have a nice home because that's what God wants of me. If I live my life with the clarity, with the unity, with the wholesomeness of God in every corner of my life, I could experience this sensitive joy, the opportunity of connection, of relationship with God, every moment of my life. And every moment of my life is invested, is saturated with this clarity, with this truth, that I am connecting to God. What is greater than that? In the first class we gave, so I quoted a Zohar. And the Zohar said a very cute thing. I loved it. The Zohar said that the word happiness in English means happenstance. Right? You remember this. And what that connotes is that the vast majority of people think that happiness happens by chance. Based on what I have, I'm happy. And what we learned from the Zohar is that no. The word bisimcha in Hebrew, which means joy, is the same word as machshava, which means thought. And what we said is that happiness is something that we create in our mind. But there's another message in the Zohar, which is it's thought, singular, versus machshavot, thoughts. Because a Jewish person's happiness comes from the fact that their entire life is one thought, connection to God. That wholesomeness, not dispersed. My life is not made up of a million details. I want this, and I want that, and I have this, and I have that, and I have this burden, and that burden. Everything is one thing. God. Every moment of my life is, this is what God wants of me. This is my opportunity to connect to God. That wholesomeness brings that ability, that beauty, that inner peace of connection with God. Okay. Was that good?
Fabulous.
So with that, I'm going to have you turn to page 204. This is the only time you're going to be using the book today. Although you could follow along with me with the key points when we get to them. Page 204, there's a quick exercise that I'm asking you to choose, with this inspiration, to choose a mitzvah for this week. Something that you're going to do. It could be something small. It could be something daily. It could be a one-time thing. It could be a specific part of a mitzvah. It doesn't have to be a whole mitzvah. It doesn't have to be I'm keeping kosher. It could be that for dinner I'll eat kosher. It's, something particular, something simple, something specific. And then to gather the words and to write down for yourself, what do you want to think about when you're going to be doing that mitzvah that will bring you the tremendous joy that we've been describing in today's class. I'll give you 2 minutes for this. Justina, are you still with us? Now, finally, for our last point, which is really nothing to do with today's class, but it's just a very good way of ending this course, is a happiness hack. So sometimes I just don't feel happy. Sometimes maybe I feel sad. Maybe I feel miserable. So here goes the happiness hack. Study. There was a study done. Thousands of people. I don't remember the exact details. You could find it, I think, in the book. Where they took X amount of people, a large number of people, and they had them hold a pen in their mouth. And half the people, they had them hold the pen in their mouth like this. And the other half of the people, they had them hold the pen in their mouth like this. These people thought that they were doing some sort of study for people that can't write with their hands.
Oh,
To see how they could write. Understanding that they had no clue about what this was actually about. And amongst the things that they did, they gave these people a picture of a cartoon. And they said, is that funny? On a scale from 1 to 10, how funny is that? And it was proven that the people with the pens like this thought it was so much funnier than the people with the pens like this. Action triggers emotion. The emotions bring emotion. Contrary to what we think that actions follow from emotion. But Hasidus thought teaches us that emotion, in a way, is more shallow than action. Action hits deeper than emotion, and it brings out a truth. And if you're in a sad place, if you're not happy, smile. Smile. Let yourself smile. Let it be uncomfortable. But you'll be happier. The Rabbi told one of his Hasidim, Bar later said to him, he said, Rabbi, I often get down and it gets to me. What should I do? The Rabbi said, do tnuos. I don't know how to not say actions, but do just gestures of happiness. And he said that he was once driving to give a class, and he gets a call on the way to the class that his son was in a terrible accident. And it was life and death. And he couldn't get himself to get out of the car. He felt depressed. And he couldn't get himself to leave the car. And on this main street in Tel Aviv, he remembers that the Rebbe told him, do gestures of happiness. So he starts picturing the Rebbe dancing at a Farbrengen. You ever saw one of those videos?
yeah.
And he starts imitating the Rebbe. And he's doing ufarata. And these people are looking at him, this rabbi with a big beard, singing in the car in the middle of Tel Aviv, and he's clapping and he's doing this and he's singing. What's he doing? But this completely changed his mood, and he went in and gave the class. Lifted him up out of that dump. Changed him to be a different person.
Yeah.
Temporarily, but we can keep it up, and then when you're in a better place a little bit, you could spend time to think about one of these points.
So you're diverting your emotion to a higher calling. So
Right,
that-
but then you could always go, we in the previous 6 classes, we discussed at least 6 reasons to be happy. Gratitude, and for what we do have, and I remember everything, we went through it earlier.
Yes.
Let's run back to that slide real quick to see. That's a good idea, to see those 6 things that we spoke about in this class. So we have them. We had gratitude for all the physical we do have, whatever we do have. Maybe we have other children we could be happy about. healthy self-esteem, to recognize I have a mission and a purpose. I'm important, I'm needed. There was the concept of being mission-oriented, so not thinking so much about myself. What am I needed for? What am I going to accomplish? There was trust in God. So maybe my son is not well, but to have that trust in God, it's all for a good reason, and God will make it better. And then there was the happiness despite our flaws. So maybe maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I asked God, why did you give me this handicap? But we think about the fact that God gave me the handicap because that's exactly perfect for me. That's how God wants me. Because only with the handicap I'll be able to fulfill everything that I need to in this world. So we had many reasons for happiness, right? That we spoke about. So at a later point, when he's out of that sudden negative emotion, he could revisit that and think about why he should be happy. But in the moment, this is the happiness hack. Yeah, I'm not thinking, but to your point, you have to know yourself. So it's not always good to shut down the emotion. At a good time, you want to let it express itself.
There's a lot of overcompensation also, and maybe it is connected to your feeling about vibe also.
Right.
It's an emotional thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So let us run through the key points over here, and you have it in your book. You also have it on the screen. Many psychological studies suggest that religion and spirituality can have positive effects on one's happiness. These findings can be explained by many of the ideas explored in this course. When we have an accurate and mature definition of God, and when we recognize his greatness and our essential bond with him, we begin to crave a connection to God. When we shift our mitzvah perspective from command to connection, we cease to see mitzvot solely as duties and perceive them as relationship builders. Each mitzvah provides us with an opportunity to engage in a relationship with God, thus constituting the fulfillment of a spiritual dream, truly a joy-inspiring opportunity. Another function of mitzvot is to fulfill God's ultimate purpose for which he created us, to reveal how each of the many details of this fragmented world is an expression of him and a part of his purpose. Awareness of our role in this task and the divine joy we cause by engaging in this project leads us to immense happiness. It's important to be happy about performing a mitzvah. This happiness, or lack thereof, is the measure whether and to what degree we appreciate the value of the mitzvah. That's why happiness and a mitzvah are so interlinked. The blessings we recite upon performing mitzvahs help us become more mindful of their value. There is never a moment in life that is devoid of meaning and purpose. Every moment of life becomes a moment of connection with God, fulfilling the cosmic purpose and bringing God immense joy. Although the joy in our mitzvah performance is more abstract and more difficult to achieve, it is not something to avoid. It nourishes and actualizes our higher needs, especially the need of the godly soul within us that lies at the core of our identity. And finally, going through the motions of happiness can trigger emotions of happiness. That is today's course. I want to play for you the preview of the next course, which is starting mid-January. And I'll be in touch with you via email or text about signing up for that. Just want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what that's about. Okay, you could join with us on Zoom if you want.
The Jewish tradition is a unique and compelling system of law and ritual that has been studied, analyzed, and practiced for over 3,000 years. But with the passing of so many generations, can we be sure our current interpretation and understanding is valid? The Rohr Jewish Learning Institute presents a fascinating 6-week course, Judaism Decoded: The Origins and Evolutions of Jewish Tradition. Prepare to question the unquestionable. Unravel the mysteries surrounding the transmission of biblical tradition. Discover the elegant source code of Talmudic law. Encounter razor-sharp reasoning and compelling arguments. Enjoy a fascinating behind-the-scenes glimpse into Judaism's sophisticated legal system. Judaism Decoded.
Okay. And that sums it up for today.
Very eloquent.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me.